Okay, looks like all the pieces of people have jumped in here. Welcome to our first town hall for my candidacy for Douglas County Commissioner District 5. I'm Nathan Tolbert. I'm a local native of 30 years, and thank you guys for jumping in on this and for providing so many questions. We're going to be on for about an hour, so hopefully we're going to get to all those questions. But I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Renee Plain. She's going to be fielding all those questions that you guys put in and running the show and keeping us on task so that we finish on time so you guys can get back to your lives and what you have planned for the rest of the evening. So with that, Renee, can you tell us how this is going to work?
Yeah, thank you. So hi, everyone. As Nathan mentioned, my name is Renee Plain. I'm the co-owner of In Plain Sight Marketing. Because I've got crazy kiddos and dogs at home with me, I've got my video off. But the purpose of tonight's event is for you to have an opportunity to get to know Nathan and ask questions, and for him to have a chance to connect with you, his neighbors. So some general information for tonight. Everyone is muted. Everyone is muted for the town hall. Because this is our first one, and it's a brand new process to all of us, we wanted to start with some basic ones first. Nathan is going to be holding town halls each Thursday at 6:30 until the week prior to Election Day, barring any unforeseen circumstances. We are recording tonight's town hall meeting. It will be shared on Nathan's website and social channels for those unable to attend. And this is the plan for all future town halls as well. We have received some questions via email and through Facebook, and we have those for tonight. We are also going to be taking questions in the chat box in tonight's Zoom. So please send your questions to me so I can ask them to Nathan. As Nathan mentioned, we do have our schedule set to wrap up at the 1 hour mark. So we'll both be watching the time and plan to end on time because we want to be respectful of your guys' schedules and family time. When we have 5 minutes left, we'll wrap up the questions and then Nathan can give his final thought for the night. So Nathan, are you ready?
I am ready.
Perfect.
For some of you guys too that aren't used to Zoom, if you mouse over your screen, it should pop up your toolbars at the top and the bottom. For me, the bottom center is the chat button. So if you click that, it should open up another window or side screen for you that you can enter your chats right there. And that is going directly to Renee. So just want to make sure that everybody knows how to manage and get around through here. So I guess I'm as ready as I'm going to be, Renee. So hit me with one.
Okay. So first one is what's on everybody's mind right now. Came from Facebook. I'd like to know where you stand on the statewide shutdown and what your plan would be to reopen our county as well as schools. You cannot generalize using numbers from urban areas, Las Vegas, Reno, and shut down rural communities. So how would you, where do you stand on the statewide shutdown, and what would your plan be to reopen the county and schools?
Well, first I agree that is definitely the big issue. I've started to see a lot of what's happening around town with some of the businesses closing. The fact that we lost the casino up at the lake is a little bit devastating to me because they supported us when I was coaching up at Wattel, and they were one of the big supporters there too. So to see the lakeside shut its doors is really, bad news as far as I'm concerned. But one of the things is, how do we get open? And that's what everybody wants to know. And I don't think there is an exact plan. And I think that's what we really need to be focusing on now, is we know that it's the reopening is looming, but nobody knows how to do that. So I've been doing some research on that. I've been talking to different people around town. One of the ER doctors, like, what is even safe? So what I'd like to do is push together and maybe create a public group that we could work on some of these issues. I have a lot of ideas, and I've found a lot of different answers. There's some guidance from the CDC about how to work and how to open some of the restaurants, whether it be separating tables so that every group is different or separated. There's options for the casinos. The Wynn has done a really great job. They've been working for quite a while creating a complete package of how they're going to handle opening their doors, and they're really pushing for that also. And I mean, they have got policy down to even cleaning the card shuffling machines and how often that's going to happen. So some really good research has been done in partnership, but we as a county need to have some guidance so that we can make sure that people adhere to that. There's quite a few different things in that nature that we'd like to do. So if I could, you know, that's really what I'm going to try to start doing by next week, is see if I can get, you know, a public group together where we can start putting some kind of a policy together and maybe present that to the board now and get that accepted as possibly conditions, or to show the state that, hey, Douglas County is ready to reopen and here's our policies that we plan to implement.
All right, so outside of COVID-19 and getting everything back open, the next question addresses what is the most important challenge facing Douglas County today outside of that?
Well, yeah, definitely, you know, with COVID, you're right. The challenge that I see, and is part of the reason why I even got started, is the divisiveness of this county. I grew up here. I like to say I grew up here. I call myself an honorary native because I graduated Douglas High School. But I came of age here, raised my family here, and I don't like what I see. I don't like the way that everybody has their own opinion and they're knocking everybody down for it. And if they don't agree. And so I'd really like to say, you know, right now policy doesn't matter. We need to come together, find a way to get everybody back to work, to get our families back to some kind of normalcy. And if this is what normal is going to look like, then we need to figure out how we can live with it and get it moving back in a direction that's positive. I think a lot of people are living in uncertainty, and I think that's not where we need to be. I would rather see people, rather than degrade somebody's opinion, talk about how it is that we can reach out and how we can build each other up. How are we going to get these small businesses open? That is really, I think, the next step. Because then once we do get to normalcy, then we can jump back into the budget issues and the RDA issues and all those things. But we need to come together as a group, and we need to, you know, and I mean Republican, Democrat, Independent, besides just what's going on inside of our Republican Party at the moment. So that would be what I think is the biggest issue. Is just, you know, come together. I got your back, you got mine, and let's get stuff done.
Before I ask this next question, which came in via email, I do just want to remind everyone that we are taking questions through the chat. So I want to make sure if anyone that is watching and listening to this call has any questions, that you put it in the chat. It comes directly to me and I'll give it to Nathan. But the next question that we had came from an email. There are some in our county that think no new building permits should be issued until the 4,000 that have already been issued have been used. What are your thoughts on that?
No, well, so that's kind of a weird statement, first of all, because the permits are being issued, unless they're wow, I have to clean that one up.
I think the question was,
there's 4,000. I think what they're saying is that there's 4,000 developable or developed lots out there, which I don't know if that's the number or not. And so we need to build those out before we issue a permit on any kind of a new development. Is that what because there's not 4,000 permits out there. There are people who pull a permit, build their house as they go. So to the question of what I think they're asking is, there's lots of reasons why different lots don't get built. There's always a few infill that are left that are less than desirable lots, or somebody bought to build on and then things happen in their lives that they didn't build. So there's lots of reasons why some of those infill lots don't get built. There's also the changing in the dynamics. I know I was talking to a resident the other day, and the lot next to his, that lot value went up so much that the cost of that lot is going to equal the cost of that house that they're going to build there. So you're talking about a lot of money going into that, and there's simply not a market necessarily for that many homes. It's going to have to be somebody who wants to build on that lot to live there themselves. So the investment problem is what's going on now with a lot of these lots that are out there. So it's really not a valid statement to say because we have 4,000 lots that are available out there, we shouldn't have any new lots, because times change. There aren't very many lots available in the ranchos. So there is actually new development coming in there. And those are being built. There are several lots out in Johnson Lane, but they're really expensive. There's a few lots left in Rocky Terrace. They're also really expensive. So it takes a specific buyer to be able to buy there. So if that's the question, then yes, you have to continue with more development in order to continue to provide a product that's able to be sold. Now, does that mean I want a bunch of new developments? No, it doesn't. But I think that is part of what's going on with why there's different products available and why a different type of development is needed. Part of that would be the ag communities that they're trying to investigate on that. So if we were stuck with the 4,000 already out there, there's no way you could do a new development and a new option. So that's where that leads, is you have to be able to have an inventory and you have to have competition so that you can try to keep those prices down.
Okay, the next question from, first one from chat. How do you plan to address the affordable housing issues?
Wow, so that is a big deal. I was talking to someone this morning even about their kid that's come back and is teaching here and living at home. You know, came back from college and is working here in our school district and is living at home in your mid-20s. And no kid wants to do that, but they want to come back here. So that is a really tough thing. And it's said that there are affordable homes around here, but I can tell you that there aren't. And what is affordable homes in here are rented, or there's waiting lists for those rents. I did a lot of research. I've been through several of the housing websites and organizations, talked to them, found some research. There just simply are not rentals available for people who make a reasonable income. And I have the numbers that you know what, next time we need to set it up so we can share screens, because I could throw up some of those numbers and show people what's really out there. Now, how do you address that? Well, it's not an overnight solution. I'm not talking about, you know, assisted or subsidized housing, just regular developments that can be developed at a reasonable rate for the developer, that they can turn around and offer a product that's inexpensive enough that somebody can buy. That means density, that means on water systems. But the problem with that is that our county doesn't have a mechanism to work with a developer to provide something of a lesser product, because we all have this idea that every developer is greedy and all they want to do is make money. And I can tell you that that may be true of some developers, but it's not true of all developers. I know several that live here and love here and would have tried to do reasonable homes, but because of the way our ordinances are written, they're simply not allowed to. The ordinance won't allow them to defer the hookup fees so that they can defer that $20,000 price tag before they even start the home. So that's a big deal. So that would be where I would start, is working on some kind of a mechanism for the developer to provide a product that is affordable. And when I say affordable, I'm not talking low income. I'm talking our sheriffs, our teachers, our first-time home buyers that are coming back, couples that are qualifying for $200,000, and there simply is not anything available in that price range in our area.
Okay, another question from chat. Thanks, you guys. Keep them coming. The commission has struggled with the voice in the room at county meetings versus a broader view. How do you see gaining the proper perspective to make a well-reasoned decision?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I like to talk. So I personally plan to have an open door. I mean, I've put my cell phone number out there. So when an issue comes up that is passionate or something you have an opinion on, that, you know, reach out and let me know. But I know they have all those little quips, you know, the same vocal people always. And a lot of times I don't believe that they represent the mass a lot of times, because the people that I talk to have completely different perspectives. So the only way to learn from your constituents is to get out and ask and keep your door open so that people can tell you. A lot of times you know you're doing the right thing because you don't hear a lot. And I guess my advice to some of those people that go all the time, that when you go all the time, your voice is not heard as much because they hear the same voice over and over and over. And so it's like my mom always told me, when I first got married was, the best thing you can do is pick your battles. So you can't battle everything. You've got to battle the things that are really, really important, and then come back and support those decisions. Once that's in there, we need to come together, not continue to ride each other on, you made the wrong decision, but that's the decision that the group made. And now we need to be together as a group on the commission and move forward and support each other. And that doesn't happen right now. So that would be where I would stand on that situation.
Great. Okay, another question that came in via email. How will you support our rural heritage and character?
Okay, so my entire life here, people say, we support ag, we support ag. And I started to think about that before I even started running for this campaign, is what does that mean? And I started to realize that I honestly didn't know what that meant. And I'm sure I still have a lot to learn, but from talking to my friends that are ranchers or in the ranch community, or, home farmers, home ranchers that have one or two animals or gardens and that kind of thing, the biggest thing you can do is be respectful and be thankful. And I know that sounds very simple, but ranching is not an easy thing to do. I grew up on a 15-acre farm over the hill in Lodi. It's where I was raised there till I was 12 before we moved. And that was, pretty hard work. And so I knew a little bit there, and that was only on 15 acres. Talking to some of the bigger ranchers, they're surprised that some of these smaller guys can even function with all that they have to do. Even though it's a smaller scale, you still have the same amount of tasks to take care of. So supporting at a base level for everybody, give them room on their tractors when you see them on the road. Wave and say hi, smile. When you see a rancher in town, just say hello and thank you for continuing this work that there's fewer and fewer guys doing. Don't go out to the beautiful barns without asking. Those are not open spaces, those are owned land, they're not open land. So that's somebody's home and they have their own things going on that you may not know about. So that would be my take on simply how to support ag, is just be kind and pay some respect.
Another question that came in from the chat, which actually ties in nicely to this last question, is, with meat packing plants closing temporarily from COVID-19, what are your thoughts on having a small local meat processing facility here in Carson Valley?
So I feel like that's a loaded question, Renee. I feel like they're trying to push back to that other decision that was made. And so to that, I am absolutely in support of a meat packing plant. I know that the main issue was the septic and why the other one wasn't passed. I think everybody understands that it would be a boon to our existence here, something that's desperately needed, and I'm all for it. If we can find a location that the board will approve and that the neighbors will accept, because that's the thing. If not, and I think Commissioner Penzel said something like that when it was up for the board, if not where they were proposing, then where do you put it? Because everybody wants it not in their backyard, but they also just don't quite understand what is a meat packing plant, what goes on with it. I mean, there's so many different things that come up with that. And that's part of my platform, is that I am planning to be objective. I want to know what's reality. I'm going to do my own research on that. I haven't done a lot of research on the meat packing plant because it's not necessarily a question that's been posed to me. It's not one that I have to decide on. Maybe when it comes up, if I'm elected, then I will definitely do my research, and I will talk to people and talk to people that I know are in the business and trust that they'll give me honest opinions, and then go out and find out more. Because I really feel that is something that everybody said they wanted. They just didn't want it at that location. So we need to push and help the person that's willing to do it get into a location, and then support them because they're doing what we asked. You know, I haven't heard a bunch of backlash from Ms. Sinclair about being told no. So I don't know what's going on with all of that. But if she comes back and comes with a different location that has the septic system or sewer system connections, then we ought to step up and back her up on that.
You guys are doing great in the chat. Here's another one coming from the chat. Describe your relationship, assuming you're elected, with county staff. What would be some of your biggest priorities as related to people and talent?
Okay, so I have a lot of connection. My first job after school when I was at Douglas High was working for the East Fork Fire District. So I was on that public sector. And then my first real job after that was working in the Carson City Assessor's Office for 6 years. So you don't get people coming to the counter at the assessor's office happy. There just doesn't happen very often. So I understand and I completely empathize with county employees. Nobody wants to hear, I pay taxes, so I pay your salaries. And that happens. But to the flip side, the county employees do work for the public. So there's got to be a balance in there. And I believe how we get that balance is supporting those employees with proper guidance, proper support up the chain. If somebody does come in that's having a hard time, you know, that person is not going to be able to satisfy them. Move that up the chain and be able to say, I don't know that answer, I'm going to call you back. That was huge. And Kit Weaver was the assessor when I started, and he pounded that into us, that if we didn't know the answer, don't make it up. Tell them I don't know, I'm going to get back to you. And that's a huge tool that I've used throughout. But really, the county employees need to be supported from the top down. We need to look at the budget, and I know that's going to be a big deal now with everything going sideways right now, but we need to make sure that our employees are paid equally to the other agencies around us. So that's a big deal now, because we're having a hard time filling positions, and we're having a hard time keeping people in positions because they're able to learn in Douglas County and then jump to Washoe and Reno and make more money. So we need to stop that from happening.
Okay, another question from chat. How are you planning to reach those who are not on social media? I spoke with several people today that were not aware of tonight's meeting.
Well, that's a tough one. So I actually have started phone calls, and it's one of those things that I have mixed emotions on, because I know I don't like getting political phone calls, but I have my family actually making the phone calls. So if you do get one, please don't scream at them. They actually are my family that's helping me out try to reach the voters. But you know what, that's a really slow process. The other one is getting things out in the mail, but again, that's a slow process, and people don't read that because we're just self-promoting, and that's just not a good method. What I would like to do, and actually what I'm going to start doing, is I'm going to try to start putting up some tutorials on my webpage about how to do different things on the web, and maybe I can teach people a little bit and share what I know. I'm by no means a genius on the computer, but I have worked on the computer since I was about 10. So that's one of the things that I'm going to try to do. But I am getting out there in whatever I can do. But right now we can't really go out and talk and meet the people. We can't knock on doors. So really the only thing we can do is try to educate people so that they can use the social media. See there, I'm older than you think. The Facebook. But yeah, that's really where I stand. I'm trying to make some phone calls. We're going to have some mailers going out. I've been out putting up signs, and the amount of people that are waving and honking is just amazing. The people continuing calling me for signs. Those of you that have them out there, I thank you so much for supporting me. But yeah, I'm not sure what else we can do. And if anybody has any ideas, I am all ears. I would do anything for this county. So I would definitely willing to take anything we can do.
Okay, another question from chat. If elected, what would be the first thing you would do to make a change?
First thing I do to make a change is be me. I'm inclusive. I am somebody that can talk to just about anybody. So my goal is to try to keep the commission together. I want to be an intermediary if we have to, because it appears, you know, from the public perspective that we have a huge divide on the board, and we need to work together, because the people are what's most important, and this county is what's most important. So that would be my number one objective, is to open the communication, learn how to speak to each other, because we all have different points of view. We all have different methods of speaking, and try to emphasize to everyone that we need to listen to what's being said and not how it's being said, because it's real easy to take tone and be offended when people are not meaning to give tone. That's just how they talk. So that's a big deal. And if I can help bridge that gap, then that I am happy to step up in that middle. But I really feel like we need 5 commissioners working in the same direction.
Another question that came in via email: what are your qualifications to be a county commissioner?
So I've touched on that a little bit. The big thing is my work history. I have done a little bit of about everything. My primary has always been working in the construction industry, doing drafting and design work for general contractors, a few big builders. But like I said, I started out with the East Fork Fire District after school. I've worked for the Carson City Assessor's Office for 6 years. I've worked for the Washoe Tribe. In the middle of the recession, I did 6 months as a dispatcher for the Carson City Sheriff's Office, and learned that I am not a cop. Cops have a very tough job, and you need to have a specific personality, type A personality, that was just not a fit for me. And the sheriffs have my utmost respect. And then again, I've had a personal business that my wife and I have run for over 25 years here in the Valley. And then you get out to all the work I've done out in the community. I have been out there, part of this community, through sports, through coaching. I've been a teacher at the high school in both Douglas and Carson. So I have that connection to the community. And I care. I feel like of all the candidates out there, I have the biggest investment in this county compared to who else is out there. I didn't come here to retire. I grew up here. I'd love to retire here. And that is what gives me that ability to connect, to reach out, and try to be the people's voice for what's going on, and represent and try to bring us all together.
Well, and that brings us into this next question from chat, talking about being together. The question is, please describe some ways in which you would advocate unity, one county, rather than any divisive environment between the lake and the valley.
Well, you know, people believe what they want to believe. And so that's going to be a long, hard road to get people back together. But we are one county, and it just chaps me sometimes when I hear about, well, that's the lake. And you know, that the lake is just as much part of Douglas County as any other run. And you know, the other one that doesn't get mentioned is TRE. People don't respect TRE, I feel like, sometimes too, where there are people that are using our services, they're residents of the county, they are contributing to our economy top to bottom. The same thing happens with the casinos. Well, they're just feeding the casinos. Well, the casinos feed us too. They have how many employees? They've supported how much of our income? And just to discredit the casinos because the guys at the top make a lot of money is irresponsible, in my opinion. And I don't know if I'm sounding a little chapped on this, but during the recession, my wife worked for the casinos, and she took a job that was probably beneath her level, but the casinos were there. So I see this is like, no idea why that's making me emotional, but we are one county, and we've always been one county. And so that passion is what I hope I can bring to everybody else. Did I lose you?
No, sorry. I'm managing all the questions coming in. I apologize.
Everybody.
I apologize. Sorry, Nathan, left you hanging.
That's all right. I agree. I'm recovered. But
oh,
yeah.
Perfect. Good job. Some of the current commissioners express their messaging on behalf of their closest constituency. Who are or would be your constituents?
You know, I made that quip before about I don't have a special interest group. My special interest group is the county. And I really do believe that. Well, look at the donations that I've gotten. Look at the signs that are up. I am not on the side of the casinos. I'm not on the side of the developers. I'm not on the side of the people against growth. I am on the side of the county, and I want the best for what's going on there. And sometimes the people that are against the development are correct. Sometimes the people that are proponents for the development are correct. Sometimes, you know, the community center was a good example. There are people that were absolutely against that. And then you see it come in and everybody realizes, hey, that really was a good project and everybody's using it, whether they were against it or not. And so that's a big deal. So I guess maybe I got on a sidetrack there. What was that question again? How would I?
The question was, some of the current commissioners expressed their messaging on behalf of their
Right.
closest constituency.
So who is my constituency?
Yes.
Right. So I'm a guy that gets along with just about everybody. I mean, I don't feel like there's anybody I can't get along with. So yeah, I may be supported by a lot of different people, but that doesn't mean that I answer to anybody. I answer to the county. What it does mean is that I'll listen and I will try to get to the reality of any situation or any question. And I feel like that's something that is missing. I mean, I'm not a politician. I'm somebody that lived here who sees a void that I'm going to try and fill.
Great. Next question from chat. You guys are really participating. Thank you so much. That's what this is all about.
This isn't easy.
I'm glad I'm on this side. Do you have a plan to engage the younger voters in this county and encourage them to be aware of how their vote impacts their local community? Great question.
That is a good question. Politicians always say that. How do I engage them? So that's one of the things I've been doing. Again, my connection is with a lot of the youth. My oldest son is now available to vote, and actually he got one of my own cards about not being registered as a Republican so that he could vote. He's nonpartisan, and none of us realized that. So he's one of those examples of us getting out there. I have been talking to some of the high school seniors that are coming of age and encouraging them to get out there and vote and read up and learn. And it's kind of fun to see because the youth are really impressionable. They get a lot of their information from their teachers and their parents. And then you get to encourage them and show them, you know, hey, this is the way things go. And you really do have a voice and you do have the power to make change. And I think that young generation, they're all about the change. You know, they came up in an area that they're in a time that's what everybody was about. We're going to make it a change. We're going to make it a change. And so just allowing them the opportunity and letting them know how important it is and how much we want to hear from them. Because, you know, sometimes that's a new perspective and they may come up with something that we didn't even realize was a thing. I mean, look at the internet, and how much we're using it now and how much I'm struggling as a 49-year-old. And these kids are doing this with nothing and laughing at us for having trouble with it.
This is another question from chat. How do you plan on protecting the floodplain and open spaces with the funds for conservation easements drying up?
Well, so a lot of the floodplain, you know, we have to adhere to the master plan on some of that and support our ag communities, because the ag is huge on flood mitigation. And I don't know if people really realize how much of that is true. So, and that's part of my, you know, research I've done on water is found out that, you know, it's not just the environment, it's not just how much water we're using, but it's supporting the ag because they actually provide the ditches, the channeling, they maintain that. And that's another part of why we need to support our ranchers because they are doing that work. So I don't know the answer to the conservation funds and how we work that up. But I know what I can do is support what's going on now with the master plan and how they've broken that up and how development can happen in the floodplain and how it cannot happen in the floodplain. And I personally would love, I mean, my personal opinion, to stay away from the floodplain. I don't like going into South Reno and realizing how much work they did to put all that gravel and elevate and manage all of that South Reno area with all of those houses that are sitting in what used to be a floodplain. That is not where we want to go, and I wouldn't support something like that if I could avoid it.
So you mentioned the master plan. That's a great place to go because we had a question via Facebook Messenger about, will you adhere to the master plan?
Yes, I will absolutely adhere to the master plan unless a viable project, a viable situation comes up that requires a change. I know that I hear a lot that the current board just approves any variance that comes their way. And they may approve more than they don't approve, but I don't think that a lot of people realize that there is a major process that people go through in order to get in front of the board. Staff denies developments, they deny projects, they deny variance applications over and over and over. And I talked to one of the town board members who used to be part of that process, and he said he'd hate coming to work because he had to tell people no all the time. And I don't think people understand that. They think, well, the board just passes everything. Well, the board passes stuff that's already made it through so many hurdles. So that's not exactly a fair accusation of the board, I don't think, because those are things that actually have some validity. They've been vetted by the staff. They've gone through and gotten to a point where the staff has said, okay, we've passed everything we can. Now it's up to you guys. And the fact that they still deny some of those is, I think, showing you that the board is actually maybe doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, next question came from email, and I just want to let everybody know we're still taking messages from chats. I think I got through everyone's chat messages and questions. If I didn't, please send me a note just so I can catch it because there was a lot coming in at once. But this one came in before the meeting. What are you going to do about the roads?
So I honestly don't know what that answer is, but I have been asking, talking, researching. I sat down with our street superintendent and found out what the issues are. You know, I asked, is it true that 20 years ago we accepted subdivisions and we knew that we didn't have the funding to take care of it? And he said, well, in essence, yes, that's true, but you know, they were brand new roads at the time. And I think that points to one of the things that we really have to focus on now is every decision that we make needs to have thought about the future, and that thought needs to be shared because we don't have consistent leadership with each board that comes in. Everybody has their own agendas, their own initiatives, and so sometimes we shift focus right in the middle. So were streets left off? Yeah, I believe they were. Is it anybody's fault? I don't know, but we need to start working on that. And this current board has started adjusting funding. They have gotten more money into that fund. He told me they have done more work, but we're nowhere near getting a solution. And we need to push that direction. And it's going to be a politic game because the people that are in some of these improvement districts inside the towns, they're paying a lot more taxes than people like me out in Johnson Lane. I don't pay my taxes to get the roads improved like the people in the town of Minden do. They have great roads down there. And here I am on grindings, and that the county's not going to take care of because they're deteriorated beyond the rating that is worth even maintaining anymore. So I do not know the exact answer, but I do know that everything we do needs to have the future in mind, and that is something that we absolutely have to take and address. I would say almost with every decision. How is this going to affect the future, and how we're going to fund what we need to fund coming down the road?
Okay, another question that came in via Facebook. what is your stance on the RDA2 and the Tahoe Event Center?
Okay, so first and foremost, my platform is objectivity, and I pride myself on being able to play devil's advocate. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for the RDA to start with. So there are a lot of reasons that the event center is a good idea. For one, getting away from gaming is a good idea. I'm all for reducing gambling. That's a great place to go. There's also a lot of opportunity, and I feel like there is the potential upside is huge for that event center. If you look at what TJ's Corral has done for Carson Valley Inn, and that's a small venue. If you recognize what Charlie Daniels is doing, what happens when you bring in Blake Shelton to the lake? That kind of an event would fill every hotel here in the valley and the lake, because we're all Douglas County. Yes, it'll trickle over to California too, but that's okay. So the potential upside is huge. I am also afraid that if we do nothing, we're going to be in trouble. Those of us who've been here longer than 20 years, we saw what happened. I was at the assessor's office at the time or right after, when the Orsby House closed. When that shut down in downtown Carson, that was huge. And if we lose one or two of those major casinos up at the lake, that could be devastating. And if we don't support them, then how are they gonna move and proceed? Because like I said, there's so many jobs available up there. Now the opposite side has the process that we've gone through. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm definitely for the idea. Now I haven't figured out all the answers. There's lots of things thrown out there. I think Larry hit a lot of things about the numbers yesterday in his town hall that he did. And because he's in that every day, I would like to believe the numbers that he puts out there. And that makes more sense to the other people that I've talked to about how this thing is funded. But you also have the city of Reno bailing out their own. But I don't know how the city of Reno is working against what, based on how I got an echo going on real quick. So hope everybody's not hearing that. Remember, old man and technology.
Christy just made a guest appearance in your town hall.
Oh, there you go. There's so many jokes that I want to make right now, but I will not. Okay, so where was I, Renee? You were listening.
I was trying to get Christy out of your town hall, to be honest. Sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, with the Reno. So I don't know how their bonding and stuff was set up compared to how ours is proposed to be set up. So there are questions out there. So I'm not making a hard line one way or the other. I know what I believe and I know what I've learned so far. I'd love to continue to hear people's opinions because that's what makes the difference. Right now, I don't have to make a vote, so I'm not going to tell you I'm absolutely for anything or I'm absolutely against it, because that's not who I am. Now, when it comes time to make the decision, I'll make the decision we have to make based on as much input and as much research as I possibly can have. So that's really my take on RDA is we need to have an open mind because they are our brothers in the county. So don't just say, well, it's the casinos. I discount that immediately. If somebody just says, well, we're just supporting the casinos. Well, the casinos support us too. So I dislike that immensely. If it's the right plan for the county, then I am all for it. If we can save the Tahoe corridor and bring people back because we do rely on tourism, then I'm all for it. But it does need to be done the right way and something that's we can support and adjust. And the other thing is, flipping back to the other side, is it is an investment. Nobody knows how it's going to go. If it gets half of what its potential could be, I think that could be a win. If it absolutely fails and all the naysayers can say, we told you, But doing nothing, looking at the Ormsby House and living through Carson City, I don't think we can do nothing.
Okay, another question that just came in through chat. Describe priorities you would take the most satisfaction in having accomplished or made major progress after your first year. Top 3 max.
Okay, so I really have one. I have one thing that I think I would gauge my performance as being a success, and that would be that the board is working together. If I could be part of a board that works together again, back in the days of Shaka Chagoyan and those guys that really did work together. They didn't agree, but they always supported each other. Once a decision was made, then this is the way we're going. And, you know, it's kind of part of a team. You know, you are a team. Yeah, you're representing different areas, but you're elected by the county and you represent the county. So if I could get some of that parity move towards the middle, I would take that as an accomplishment, and that would be a big one because there's so many issues out there that I don't believe we can solve any of them. We can get started on solutions. We can start pushing that way, but that's a big deal.
Okay, I think this one is a little bit facetious, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it made me chuckle. Are you a prolific reader? The board packets are weighty.
Yes and no. I am actually a slow reader, but my comprehension is very, very high. So when I tested, I did, you know, yeah, I was a little slow, but it did. And that's part of, you know, that's part of the job. I mean, I recognize that this takes a lot of time. Running this campaign, I've realized how much time I'm giving up from my job to do this, but I think it's worth it. I've got the support of my family to continue. And so that's where we're going to go. Am I prolific? I am not a fast reader. I will give you that. But yes, that's something that needs to be done. But you also, I feel like, have to go beyond the reading. You know, you have to read and then come up with your questions and go find out what you can. And so that's what I'm planning to bring.
You've mentioned that your this came from chat as well. You've mentioned that your platform is research-based. Can you explain your research process and how you come to a conclusion on an issue?
So my process is first to read, and then I get on the Google and see what else I can find and see who else has already done what we're already doing. And I don't mean just going to YouTube and watching videos. You go through, if you start using keywords and then finding next keywords, and you usually can find documents and people that have done what you're doing and start gleaning from them. And then you start finding those people and you can reach out to those people and find out, hey, what did happen? When I started with the water, the first thing I did was Google what's the word? It's escaping me. The consumption or replenishment of an aquifer. And then I added in Carson River, and then I got to the Carson Water Subconservancy, and then reach out and call them. And then I asked ranchers, hey, what's going on with this, and how do you know about that? And then they hit me up with other people that you can talk to. And so there is a huge circle of people in the Douglas County area that have a lot of knowledge. And if you start to just ask the questions, people are happy to help out and give you what they know and tell you, you know, I do know this guy. And so that's where I've gotten a lot of good information, is going to the people who know and are doing it every day. I do that with my construction. I would never design kitchen cabinets exactly how they're going to go, because the guys in the industry are the guys that know exactly how it's done. I give them a general picture and they fill in the blanks. So that's where you would go. I mean, you go to the guys that are doing it every day, that have done the research, they have the letters behind their names. That means that they've done it. And that's a lot of work. And that's what I feel like the commissioner is doing, so that you don't have to go do all that as a voter or the constituent.
Okay, here is another question from chat. How do you see yourself working with GGG, the Good Governance Group?
I think that's an easy question. The good governance group is not all evil. They are people that want to do the same thing. Read their the mission statement and what you see out there, and they want the same things that everybody wants. We want to maintain our rural character. We want to keep our view corridor. We want our growth to be responsible. I think we all want that. Now, the only thing I think I differ on is I'm not as vocal as they are about that. And so that is listen to the message, not how the message is delivered. And that's the way I feel like you have to be. So just because somebody doesn't say it the way I want it doesn't mean they're not valid and that they're not entitled to have their opinion and that I shouldn't listen to their opinion. There's some people that I respect that represent the good governance group, which, you know, it's kind of an enigma on its own. What is the good governance group? People that come up and say, well, you characterize us, we're just people that get together and talk politics. I'm not sure. I haven't been to their groups. I was scheduled to go talk and all of this stuff happened. And so I haven't been able to go to a meeting. So I feel like I can work with anyone. Now, do I always appreciate the delivery method? Not necessarily, but I listen and I hear the message. So I don't feel like there's anybody I can't work with.
Okay, I've got 2 more questions because it's 7:21 and I want to make sure that we are respectful of everyone's time tonight. And I kind of feel like the next 2 are big ones. So the first one is, what is your stance on taxes? Should they be increased, remain the same, or be decreased? And what should they be used for?
Okay, so that's one of the things. I will not make a blanket statement. I will not sign the tax pledge because that immediately handcuffs you if something happens that needs to be addressed. Does that mean I want taxes? No, it doesn't mean I want taxes. I don't want to increase that. I mean, I pay them myself. I don't want to be paying more than I have to. So it really comes down to managing the budget and taking care of the precious commodity that people have given us in their tax dollars. So will I tell you that I will never raise taxes? I won't. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to try to just raise taxes because I think we need X, Y, Z. So let's go for it. No, that's irresponsible. I want to represent the county. I want to be working to our best interests. And that is something that we don't even know what that looks like 2 months from now. So I'm going to do the best I can do.
Okay. And the last one that I have for you is, what do you think is the truth of the water issue?
Haha. Set me up on that one because I said I did all this research. Renee, did you put this question in there? You're testing me, aren't you? No answer. Okay. The truth about the water. There is a lot of truths out there about the water. A lot of people have their own truths. What I feel is there's a lot of information and people have latched on to little pieces that they've learned and heard. And so I thought I knew, coming into this, I've lived here forever, you think you know, and you do know a little bit, but you don't know a lot. And that's what I really found out. There's a lot of numbers. The aquifer replenishment, just in round numbers. Wow. Does everybody have their Red Bull out? Because this is going to be dry. There's 49,000 acre feet of water being replenished. That's the estimates. And remember, all of these things are estimates right now because there's not an active study that quantifies what all these things are. So there's a lot of math behind all these things. So replenishment annually is 49,000 acre feet of water. And our consumption is actually, I believe it was somewhere around 23 or 26,000 acre feet of water is how much is actually being pulled out in the last cycle, which I believe was 2018. Now there's numbers out there that says that we're pulling 90,000 acre feet. We're well over, and that is not the truth. That number is what is allocated out of our aquifer. That in the valley, that is all of the water rights. That is counting up the wells, and every well gets 2 acre feet. That is adding up what is out there for people to use out of the aquifer, and that is groundwater and surface water. So that is not a realistic number. That is what's allocated. So why are we over allocated? Well, there's several reasons for that. Part of it is the ag use. When the river level is high, all the ditches run and they're able to irrigate, flood irrigate. When the river is low and they're not able to run the ditches, then then they can pump. And so we do need to be able to set up to share screens next time when we do this, because I could show you the graph that I got that shows the water level of the river being up here and our pumpage levels way down here. And then as we got into that dry season, the river level was dropped and then the pumpage levels went up. So we're still using the less water than what we think or what's being put out there, because that's the allocation number. And I hope that makes sense. It's really a rough, explanation of how that works. Now, so there's the 26,000 out of 49, so just over half, right? So that means there's still plenty of water in the aquifer, but does that mean that we're okay? No, it doesn't. There are other issues, like the water level is dropping, the groundwater level is dropping in the East Valley and Ruinstrath, and that's because there's so many wells in those areas and there's less ag in those areas, and the replenishment in those areas comes from the Pine Nut Mountains, which is not as much as what's coming off of the Sierras and running through the middle of the valley. So that is an issue over the, almost 20 years, I think, in the cycle that was on the graph. The water table has dropped 30 feet in those areas. Now, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but the fact that it's not coming back with all these wet years that we've had now, that's something we need to pay attention to, and that is a problem. So development, and a big development in those areas, that's not a good thing. We need to get a water system out there, which is going to be expensive. And how do you do it? Do you make people hook up? I mean, that's a topic that needs to be talked about. And how do we get that going? So that's just some of it. The other things. Do I have time, Renee? I can keep going on water.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off here because I know
right
you
now?
can keep going.
Okay,
We have
I'm gonna hit one more, the arsenic, because everybody's worried about the arsenic too.
okay.
Okay, quick. I'll be quick. So everybody's worried. Well, we have all this high arsenic level. Our water levels of the arsenic levels have not changed. What happened was the allowed number of the arsenic level was dropped. A lot of our wells around here were sitting at the 30 parts per million. I think I'm talking correctly, somewhere around there in the 20s and high 20s and 30s. And our allowed level used to be 50. Well, they took the World Health Organization or somebody's new, it was a world number that was 10 is what was adopted by the EPA. So they actually dropped the allowable level. Our water didn't get bad. Our water was now characterized as bad. So that's another fear thing. Our water is not turning bad. So, okay, sorry. Is that a good? Am I on time?
That's good. I just sent him a message, everyone, that said this is not quick. So clearly he has lots of information that he would like to share. And the good news is that even though we're done for tonight, he is going to be doing these town halls every Thursday at 6:30. So Nathan, you have 30 seconds to wrap up your piece, and then I will wrap up my piece, and then we will send all these good people on their way.
Okay, so 30 seconds is, I want to say thank you. All of the people that have talked to me, sent donations, called me for signs. I don't know, I've never experienced support at such a mass level like this. And I mean, teachers, family members, or working families, people in development, people all over, sheriff deputies, firemen, just the broad spectrum of people who have come out and supported me and told me that they love what I'm doing. That means more than anything, and I'm going to do my best for everybody in the county. Was that 30 seconds?
That was pretty good.
Okay.
So again, thank you guys, everyone, for showing up and participating. We look forward to doing these each week. We're going to, like I mentioned, we have been recording this, so we'll be putting it up on his website, on Nathan's website and social channels. His website is nathantolbertdistrict5.com. And you can also sign up for his newsletters that you can share with friends and family that maybe aren't on social media. And we would love to have you back with us, and we look forward to seeing you all again. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great evening.